Think outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. We love to celebrate the heritage, the rich automotive heritage we have here in Grosse Pointe, but we will make no apologies for our decidedly Detroit perspective. Today's show is very important if you're paying attention when you drive. Have you guys ever noticed when you're going down the highway, these new digital billboards? I mean, they're so bright, and some of them are changing quickly. They're the latest technology. There's a couple of reasons why they're popping up everywhere, and there's a couple of concerns, especially by some study groups who are saying they could be very dangerous to us. We're going to get the inside story about the real dangers behind digital billboards, or if even if there are any, from our closest friend and ally here, Dan Brochstein.
Hey, John.
Dan, how you doing? Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for inviting me.
Dan, your journalism stuff goes back to the days where you and I read Auto Week.
Yeah.
And you're still doing freelance journalism, but I know you're also paying attention to everything that's on the highway. You drive a lot
Absolutely.
still.
A lot of community, yeah.
And these digital billboards, they seem to be popping up everywhere, and they do, I have to give them some credit. They do catch your eye more than this the regular billboard. But we're going to have to do the pros and cons behind this, because there's some people who are saying they're dangerous, other people are saying they're great. Some people are saying this is the wave of the future. But we're going to have to sort it out and put it into context for people.
Exactly.
But you know, before we do that, we have to do something else. We have to find out what's happening
In the news.
in the news, yes. All right, I'm going to take this first one because this one drives me crazy. I've been talking on this show for the last 50 shows about colors. We always like to talk about car colors and how important they are and how your selection of a car color can really affect the resale value. And remember, we did a couple of shows on what the most popular ones are, why they're popular. This study just blew me away. Dan, I couldn't believe what I read, but it's
It was
true.
surprising, yes.
All right, now we've told you before that colors like silver, white, and black, the most popular car colors out there. That's what everybody's buying. These are the ones that quick turnaround. They don't stand on the dealer lots very long. Those are the ones that really move. And so you'd think that because of that, they would hold their value. But you know what? You'd think wrong. According to a study done by IC Cars. Now, I don't know about this group, IC Cars. I don't know if there was a vested interest in this study, but this new IC Cars group did a color study, and they say that colors like yellow and orange depreciate at a lower rate than white, silver, or black. So those crazy colors that you normally wouldn't lean to, the bright reds, the oranges, yellow, those color cars actually have a higher resale value, which to me is just, it makes no sense. Now, black is the worst, apparently. Most cars, yellow does depreciate at an average cost, but the average is less. It's over about 5 years from the original price. These cars are depreciated over about 26% of their value. Now, black is the worst. It's about 34% of the value. And the average color is about 33% over 5 years. You lose that. That means if the car's original price was, say, $20,000, it would be about $1,500 more at that percentage after 5 years if it were painted yellow or orange compared to maybe black.
Right.
Now, that to me is insane, because it's just there are not that many yellow or orange cars out there. I mean, sports cars.
There are companies that are starting to do more with orange. Dodge has a color called header orange that they paint on the Dart and on the Challenger and on the Charger. And there's a pretty high take rate in that right now.
Now, Corvettes, Mustangs, I know there's a yellow Mustang registry.
Yep.
Thousands of people. So, and then Ford always, but so sports cars, but I mean, have you ever seen just like a traditional car? I mean, I know I saw a Nissan SUV, I saw a Ford Escape in yellow, and it's just startling to see those colors. I had no idea they were worth more. So to you folks driving that bright car, the hey, look at me car. See, that's why I wore this very bright colored shirt, because of digital distractions with our topic today. Are you getting all this down?
I am.
All right, write this stuff down. But anyway, so very interesting stuff for you guys. I really can't believe it. I'm going to track this.
Let me know what you find out.
Why don't you give me a headline that I can believe in, Dan?
The Chinese Volvos are coming.
No. No. No, tell me it's not so,
The
Dan.
senior executive at Volvo was quoted as saying recently
Yeah.
that the company plans to start exporting Chinese-made Volvos to the U.S. and Russia as early as next year.
No, we say, no, wait a minute. You and I, when we were covering the auto shows, we would say, well, look at the Chinese cars. They are they're 10 years away from being imported here.
Right.
Now you're saying next year we could have Chinese-built cars here.
They're looking at as many as 10,000 S60Ls, that's a long wheelbase S60, and a few thousand XC90s a year to start. And it's intended to minimize foreign exchange risks.
Yeah, well.
And Volvo would become the first major automaker to sell a Chinese-built vehicle in the United States.
Folks, it's going to happen. We told you it wasn't going to be that little nano car. It wasn't going to be these crazy little Geelys.
Yeah.
They're actually, here's how they did it. Dan, this is really ingenious.
Okay.
All right. We talked about this at the auto show. We were kind of going up to the cars. Remember, we put our, look at this. Oh, this is terrible. They couldn't sell this here. And we kind of laughed. But now they're figuring they were smarter than we were. They're not going to try to figure out how to get quality. They just buy it.
Yeah.
They bought
exactly
Volvo.
what they do.
So now you don't have to learn anything. You just
Turnkey
say,
operation.
it's mine. So give me everything you've learned over 80, 90 years, how long Volvo's been around, and now it's mine. And now we'll just build it like that, and we'll crank it out. And because they have Chinese labor, that's what they say, this foreign exchange risks.
Right.
The risk is if dollars and yens and all that stuff. Unbelievable. You're China. So you folks that thought we were buying your Volvo, it's a Scandinavian car, it's Chinese. I hope it's better than their drywall. Oh. Anyway, I got a Chinese story for you. The Chinese, we've watched the Chinese market because it's the biggest growing market in the world. And guess what, folks? You think they're getting like us? You're so right. Because they've just done a sales study in China. And 4 of the top 10 best-selling, I know what you're thinking, big American luxury cars, Buicks, Lincolns, maybe you're thinking SUVs, crazy trucks. No. 4 of the top 10, minivans. That's right. The Chinese are being drawn into that crazy phase we went through for a while. Minivans, remember when we all had to own minivans? When my kids were in Grosse Pointe Hockey Association, I had to have a minivan.
I dodged that bullet.
Oh, you're lucky, because let me tell you, when you're driving a minivan and you're a freelance automotive journalist or an automotive journalist, you don't want to be seen. I had to wear a Nixon mask driving around town. Oh, I'm not a minivan driver. That's what I had to do. Because who wants to be, you don't be a car guy stuck in a minivan. But in China, they are 4 out of the top 10. Sales in China have increased 11% this year alone. And the media buyers over there say they prefer minivans. Why, Dan? Because they can seat more passengers and they cost less than the big SUVs. Oh, you poor Chinese, you're getting suckered into the same thing. It's going to be so bad. I just hate to be caught in a minivan. I don't think there's one that looks cool.
Still the
There's a
the
stigma.
penalty box mentality.
There's a
about it.
stigma. I know, you're right. But give me something I can believe in now.
Well, BMW has announced they're going to beef up the production of carbon fiber
Ah,
to use in its cars.
now that's a lightweight, just stuff like flyweight, but it's very strong.
Very strong, very lightweight, durable, and rather expensive.
See, so wait a minute. So Ford's doing aluminum trucks, BMW's doing electric cars. They wanted, instead of using aluminum, they want carbon fiber parts?
Yep.
Well, so how are they going to do this?
Well, they announced that with their joint partner, SGL Group, will invest $200 million to expand the plant in Moses Lake, Washington next year.
$200 million?
$200 million.
Where that
And it says
Wow.
once the expansion is complete,
Yeah.
the site will be the largest carbon fiber plant in the world with a capacity to produce 9,000 tons of the lightweight material a year. That's a lot of carbon fiber.
Who's going to use all that? So BMW's going to use all that carbon fiber?
Well, I think what's going to happen is right now carbon fiber is very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's because it's tricky to make, and making it in volume is difficult.
Yeah.
But if you get a facility like this one in Washington that can make it in volume,
Well,
bring the prices down so they use more of it in vehicles.
you got to give credit to the car companies. They're looking at any possible way to make their cars lighter and stronger, and they're doing everything they can. New materials, they're really pushing the envelope, and maybe they think they're betting the farm on this one.
Well, they're putting the carbon fiber that's currently being produced in Washington is right now it's only used on the BMW i3, the new electric, and the i8, the electric sports car.
Electric sports car. So,
But
okay.
BMW plans to use it in other models in the future, and why not? I mean, it's pretty cool.
Carbon fiber. And I hope it's not like those hockey sticks we saw the Red Wings were using, because those fiber composites. You touch them and they go kaflooey. Yeah, you got to be careful of that carbon fiber stuff. But folks, this is another news story. I just thought this was crazy. I wanted to bring it in for you because you know what? Some things that we go through in our car ownership experience and is just keeping our car clean, and not so much getting the car washed because it rained. It's just the dirt gets on the car, and sometimes you don't have a chance. You get home from work, and Mr. C's is closed already. I mean, and then you got to get the pail and the bucket out, and then you're washing the car in your driveway. When someone says, "Oh, that's not environmentally right. You're using up too much water," what do? You want to keep your car clean. Well, Nissan has come up with a new idea. It's what they call the self-cleaning car. Well, it's kind of a misnomer. It doesn't really clean itself. In the way what we think. Actually, we know what a hassle it is, right?
Yes.
Keep your car clean. But they are using this new technology in paint that they say may eliminate the need for car washes altogether. Now, this new paint they put on a Nissan, and they actually gave a video and put the video out on the web. We have this video.
We do.
We want to show it to you to see how this paint thing works on the Nissan. Let's try it. Let's take a look at it. What do you think, Dan?
I think it's pretty trick. I like it.
Rain, mud, dirt, even oil repels that. They're testing this paint in Europe this summer, and on those small cars. And then they said, they don't really have plans to use it as an option on your car, but they're thinking of maybe they could use it as an aftermarket option. Kind of like, remember when you used to buy paint protection?
Yeah.
You go to the dealership, that's the guy who have to give you such a good deal on the car. Well, you need to have the interior protected with Scotch Guard, you need paint protection, you need this, you need undercoating, sound deadener, the floor mats, all that stuff. So apparently that's one way they could do it, but I don't know. I mean, do you think there's a market for this?
I do, especially in the Midwest and Northeast, because the one time when your car is the dirtiest in the year, it's usually in the middle of winter, when it just doesn't make sense to go out and wash your car. The accumulation would be less, and maybe once every season instead of every 3 weeks.
Hey, folks, if that could get the salt off of your car, if salt wouldn't stick to it, I think they may have something there, because here in Detroit, I've seen cars drive down the road, I don't know what color they are. They just look like salt. And you'd have to wash them, and you had no idea what color was underneath. Really kind of cool technology. But the news is always fun, but we have a new segment, Dan, that we like to show off. And this is where we make the viewers do a little bit of work on their own, because it's something we call Car Trivia Time. This is when I ask you a question. They expect us to have all the answers. Well, we are professionals. But now we're going to ask you a question. And in fact, Lauren and I were talking about maybe we should give prizes away for but can we trust anybody with telling us they were honest about their answer? Here's the question we have for you today. This car trivia question is kind of tough, but you got to put your thinking caps on. Here is the question. What car was the first ever to have its radio antenna embedded into the windshield? Now, everybody knows the radio antenna was this metal mass that stuck up out of your car, but one automaker got the idea to take a thin piece of wire, embed it into the glass where you wouldn't see it, and you wouldn't need that radio antenna, which would get stuck in the car wash.
That's true.
What was the brand car, and maybe give us the year when this happened. Now we're going to put this answer, we'll give you this answer, we're going to put Dan in the driver's seat and talk to us about these digital billboards right after this message. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. Today we're visiting with Dan Brochstein. Dan, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm enjoying it.
Dan spent a lot of time with me at Auto Week there, and as your freelance journalism world that takes you into all kinds of different places, we love to get your perspective on some of the topics of the day. And today we've got this great topic about digital billboards, their safety problems, what are the issues. But before we do that, we have to give you the answer to today's car trivia question. Just before the break, we asked you a really tough question. I bet you got to really be sharp to get this one. This is a tough one. Here was the question. I'll repeat it for you. What car was the first to have its radio antenna embedded in the windshield as standard equipment? And the answer is, drum roll please, it was the 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix. That was the first production car ever to have its radio antenna embedded into the windshield. I remember this, Dan, when this came out, and you'd look at it and say, wait, there's no antenna on the car. It usually was on the front fender, or some cars had them on the back. Right. And we thought that was so cool. Early versions, I heard, worked okay, except when you turn the wipers on and the metal wipers went over the antenna, would cause a little bit of interference, which they didn't think about.
Right.
But
it was a new technology at the time, and they're still learning with it.
But I like the idea. Why don't they still do that? Because the wire would have to be this big. Because there's so much.
Yeah, there's so much
data.
other systems to compete.
The wire would be like a piece of steel cable in your windshield. It would be any good. Okay, well that was a great. I hope everybody got the right answer on that one. If not, keep watching. But now it's time, Dan, to put you in the driver's seat. Let's talk about this digital billboard dilemma. Kind of like loud and crazy, like my shirt. We're driving down the road these days. We see billboard here, billboard there. Sometimes we don't look, but the digital ones. Man, look at how bright. Did that billboard did I see it change? It's bright, it's lit up, it's in your face, and all of a sudden something happens, the colors and the words, and it catches your eye, and you look, wait a minute, did that billboard just change? And Dan, it did just change, and there was a study overseas done by a consumer group that said changing these billboards and flashing them to us is going to cause people to crash and die. And then, so we did a study over here, the the Highway Department did a study, and they said, no, that's totally fine. Let's put this in context. Who can we believe? Which study is right?
Well, you know, I think it's got to be a hazard to some extent. I think it is because a billboard tells a story, and a good billboard tells you a story in just a few seconds.
Oh, you look up?
You look up, you see it, you register it, you keep driving.
Okay.
This continues on telling you different stories. So if you want to see what the second message was, or the third message doesn't come through, you're slowing down, you're looking over your shoulder, you're actually taking part in reading something instead of scanning it. And that's where I think it presents a problem.
So you're saying because you're spending, a billboard, you look, and then you look back, you're driving. But this one, first it catches your eye, then you're looking, then you see it change, you're looking again and again, and that, because it's going to take your eye off the road longer, is the safety hazard?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, just a couple seconds could end up being 10 seconds or more with a multi-message board.
All right, well, what about the people, there's a whole faction of people that say that the reason our government or our study said they weren't a distraction is because there is a law as to how many billboards you can put out there. Apparently, remember that old song, signs everywhere, sign? Yeah. Well, the legislatures of many states prohibit billboards within so many feet of each other. You can't obliterate the landscape. Not that anybody's paying attention to the landscape, you little kids who are on your video games and watching your 9-inch video screens. You should be looking outside, but there are so many signs in a row, like one after another, and you go down the road and it gets to just blot out the whole vision of any area. I understand that, but they're saying that this digital way is a way to use one sign where you could do 5 messages instead of 5 different signs, and isn't that better for the environment?
Well, I think a good way to look at this would be if the messages were timed differently, where you're not seeing it every 4 seconds, a new message, maybe once every 15 minutes. And I think that would reduce some of the distraction that people would experience by driving past it. All
right, now, Dan, I'm not sure if you folks really know where these are. There are a couple of them on I-94 already. I've seen them by the Pontiac Silverdome. The other issue is night driving. Now, we've had billboards for years that we had, put lights up on it so you could read the paper billboard. That's not an issue. I mean, they're lit up, and generally the guys that can't afford the lights, they're not open at night anyway, apparently, or they can't afford it. Because lighting a billboard is costly. Now, the question they have for this is these billboards are backlit. Right? Okay. They're generally not, they're like televisions. They're like LEDs, or and the problem a lot of people say is that at night they're really bright, and that startling light is what attracts your eye. And they use something they call the moth theory. Do you know what the moth theory is?
I have no idea.
Well, when somebody told me, I said, they said, you ever turn on your night light at your house, your porch light, and then you look outside, moths are flying around the light. They're just attracted to it. Some police officers, now you worked as a paramedic, some police officer told me they'll pull off to the side of the road with their flashers on, and for some reason, I don't know why, to me that would be, oh, there's a flashing light, I got to move out of the way, there's a bright light. But people say that draws
them
how
in.
is that possible, Dan?
That's a good question. I'm sure it's being researched.
I mean, is it true, first of all?
It's true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a police vehicle on the side of the road with the door peeled back, or a car parked closely behind
But the
it.
light is flashing, like, get away.
We had the same problem with ambulances, with cars wandering into traffic scenes because they were just blinded and drawn in by the strobe lights.
So the moth syndrome again.
I think, yeah.
So the question now, these digital billboards, so there's two studies, one the international study that says they're dangerous and should be banned, one here in the United States say they're okay and we just have to regulate them. What would you prefer? Do you like the fact that you can get more messages in a few seconds? I mean, what do you think as a consumer, a driver? I mean, is that information necessary for you?
I think it needs to be regulated.
Okay.
If I only see one message, I'm fine with that. I think there's a place for these to be, but I just think they need to be used very smartly, adjusting the light intensity for night or day driving.
Yeah.
It's a new technology, so give it some time to flesh it out.
Yeah, as those signs you saw there, this is the future. You'll probably see a lot more of these coming on the highway near you and very shortly, and we're going to have to watch for them, but not so closely that we went off the road. Thanks for that very, very cool topic. We appreciate that. But we've had another new segment we added to the show, and we want to switch gears now and go into that. This is a new topic we call Pick of the Week. And this is where you, the viewer, can send me a pic, or some friends or pals in the industry, freelance journalists, other friends that we know, send us a photo, and they say, John, check this out, you got to show this on your show. So what do? I put it on Cars in Context. This pic of the week is sent to me by a guy who loves the fact that there's going to be a new Mustang, a 2015 Mustang, and he found, Dan, this picture of a 2015 Mustang station wagon. And Dan, I'm looking at the side and looked really closely above the quarter panels, and it says Country Squire, and I said, oh my Lord, where did you see this car? Now, Dan, you are a photo expert. I know a lot about the new Mustang coming out. Look at this car closely, Dan. Look at where the roof line is. Tell me, is this a real pick of the week, or is this somebody screwing around with something called Photoshop?
I think someone is very, very good with Photoshop.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Yeah, They looks like the guy behind there, the color doesn't look quite
No,
right.
It looks like it's been placed in front of him.
I mean, there was...
I mean, props for doing such a nice job shopping it, but I think it's Photoshop.
Okay, folks, if you've been in an auto show and you see a Mustang station wagon with a Woody on the side, you got to call us. Call the War Memorial, talk to Laura, and say, there was a car like this, because we don't buy it. This pick of the week, we're gonna say, not real. Okay, so every once in a while, somebody will send us a Photoshop photo. Dan's calling the bluff on this. I don't think you'll ever see a 2015 Mustang Woody station wagon anywhere, and certainly not by Ford Motor Company. But thanks for that pick of the week. All right, now we do have another fun segment, and that's the one where the viewers get to send us pictures of their rides. It's called Pride in My Ride. That's where you send us a photo of your car. You tell us why you pride in the ride, and we'll put it on the air, and we'll explain your story. But today, Dan, we're going to show a car that was very favorite of mine. It was a car that I actually had a very similar car to. This is a 1978 Ford Mustang II King Cobra owned by Dale Raby of Livonia, Michigan. If you sharp-eyed people had been to Eyes on Design, you'll notice that this car was at the Eyes on Design show this summer. And Dale brought this King Cobra out. The reason I'm showing, look at this. This has the deluxe interior. This is all 70s. I don't know if he has an 8-track player, but mine, I had a car identical to this. The King Cobra option was only in 78. This is the rear T-roof. Less than 400 of these T-roof V8 4-speed air-conditioned cars were built in 1978. He's got a car. I had one almost identical to Dale's. The reason I sold mine is because he would park next to me at the show and mine was all beat up. That car was put in a bag in 70. It's like a brand new car. Dale, thanks for sending us that photo. Folks, if you have a car that you want featured on Pride in My Ride, send it to me, jclor@carsandcontext.com, and we'll put it on the air, but you know there's more. This is the best part of the show. This is where Lauren Parrott of WMTV digs through the mailbag and brings us viewer mail. Lauren, is it possible you found more viewer mail?
I did.
You did it again.
Yeah, there's mail for both of you.
Oh, Lauren, thank you so much. Another great job by Lauren. If it weren't for this, folks, thank you for sending it in. Dan, why don't you take this very first letter to us? Go ahead.
Sure. This one comes to us from Nate R. of Grosse Pointe Woods,
Okay.
who watches Cars in Context on Comcast Cable Channel 915.
Okay.
He says, Dear Cars in Context, I saw your show, Do Drivers Really Want or Need Tech?
Okay.
And wondered if you thought digital technologies become truly a consideration for younger people, even crucial for some when choosing a car to buy.
It's true for some it is.
Do you think broader digital and wireless capability in cars will add to driver distraction, or will it increase driving safety by letting drivers keep their eyes on the road while letting Siri read them text and
Not
email?
Siri again. Okay, Dan, I think I know what you're going to say on this one.
I think it is important. I think as people get more feature-rich gadgets and tablets and phones, they expect to take that with them to some extent. And I think they can let a lot of the reading and directions be read to them by another voice, possibly Siri. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's important.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. And I'm going to be honest, you're probably right. And Nate, that's a great question for sending in. For me personally, though, I don't need Siri. I have Jenny.
Oh.
Jenny says, "You're driving too fast, you idiot." No, she doesn't say that. She will, everything I want to know, in fact, things that I don't want to know, I'll get from Jenny instead of Siri. But I guess there's some value to it, and people will probably find it critical. I don't know, not for me. But anyway, I've got one too. This one comes to us from Rodney K. of Grosse Pointe Farms, and Rodney watches Cars in Context on AT&T Uverse, channel 99 up there. He says, "Dear John, love your show." Rodney, so do we. We love this show. Thanks for watching us. Did you see all the headlines in the Australian media of late about the police in Victoria in the southeast part of the country using new super anti-distraction traffic cameras to catch drivers who text, talk, or tweet on mobile phones while behind the wheel? John, is there any chance that this technology is coming to the U.S.? What? Is this?
Not.
Rodney, first of all, I wasn't aware they have super anti-distraction. Rodney, if you're making this up, I'm going to find out. But no, I hope not, because we need to be responsible for ourselves, folks. Don't text and drive, don't tweet and drive. Just drive and then get home and do all that other stuff. It's not that important. It really isn't. I mean, if you'll live to actually get the message. Every day there are accidents from people texting, tweeting. So I don't think we need technology chasing us down.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't like cameras. I don't like that part of it. But let's be responsible. Dan, I know you really this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate bringing this in. Thanks for coming along.
Hey,
we're out of time
thanks for having
already.
us. Okay.
No, but we have to thank our readers too, because sending in this stuff and interacting with us. This is what makes Cars in Context in Context. Dan Brochstein, by the way, was the guy that brings Cars in Context TV to the YouTube channel. Dan was the guy that gave me the technology. He launched that whole program. We have thousands of views. If you missed a show on Cars in Context on WMTV, you can go back and you can watch it on the YouTube channel. Tell your friends and neighbors. I appreciate you, Dan. Appreciate, again, all your technology stuff. Thanks for watching, and keep on coming back. We'll have some other good stuff to talk to you about.
Thank you.
Folks, and thank you for watching. And remember, until next time, that knowledge is power. I've been your host, John Clor. Thanks for watching.